I'm going to do some stuff that's a bit of a review of what Axiom is, that we actually presented at the beginning of the summer, and talk a little bit about timelines, and then I'm going to try and get us into the actual updates. So for starters, just as a review, what is Axiom? Axiom is meant to be an overall and domain ratings projection calculated based on available data. And we have bold-faced and italicized the words based on available data. We have your information in Aware. We have a lot of information in Aware, but we do not have every single piece of information that TEA is going to use 100% of the time when they determine the accountability rating. So we are projecting your ratings using the methodologies that they published, and we have some pretty cool graphs and reports that can be used in and around accountability domain ratings. The best feature in my mind is the student level data, which goes beyond accountability and gets you to the students behind the number. So I'm going to be showing some cool new options that we've added to that, but that is the heart of Axiom, is it gets you started with a conversation about accountability, but then gets you past those numbers to those students. Axiom is different from regular Aware reporting because we actually have a huge accountability centered data table running in the background for Axiom, so that you don't have to build the reports and the views by yourself every single time. It's way more performant to get all this information, especially for something like Domain 1, which is a huge data set for a district. In Aware, we do have a regular Domain 1 data table report just in your reports. You have quick views for any and everything related to analyzing STAR data, including accommodations used and things like that. And of course, Aware is where you take your actions with student forums and monitor groups after Axiom. And so Axiom, as a part of Aware, is super like connected to those features, but there is a distinction between some of those. But as a reminder, it is only the agency, TEA, that can assign campus and district ratings and distinctions. That has not changed. We do not recommend ever presenting anything from Axiom to your school board because it is not official. And so this is for superintendents to look at, for principals to look at, district level decision makers to look at. This is meant to get started in conversations about accountability centered data and to get to those student level results for monitoring, but it is not for formal reporting. And so I just wanted to make sure that I emphasize that. Okay, so to get your resources, and this is where we get our resources for accountability, of course, go straight to the source, TEA's website. They have a whole section for 2023 accountability system, and all the development materials are there. And that's where we went. That's where we actually went to get a bunch of data for Axiom. And I'll be talking a little bit about some of those changes this year. And so go straight to the source. That's what our recommendation is. And now for the big question, when will it be available? We made a big deal at the beginning of the summer saying that our timeline was to try and have something in Axiom available to at least see for the early results in June. And we grossly underestimated the number of changes in 2023 accountability and how much development work we were going to have to do in Axiom this year. So unfortunately, we did not meet that early summer deadline to at least have some of the student level lists available. So the timeline that we're aiming for is late this week. We know that some 3 through 8 results of some sort are supposed to be available by August 4th and then by August 11th. And so we want to at least have it available by August 4th because that's the last data set that you're waiting for. So be on the lookout for this to release. If not by Friday, then over the weekend, we'll try to get it out so that you can have it next week when next week begins. So that is our estimated timeline right now. Let's talk about the updates. Starting with the main page, we've had a little bit of a facelift to it, but it's the same exact information, same layout. It just looks a lot nicer in the new Aware navigation. The main page, when you log into Axiom, is going to be where you see the overall projections, the different domain projections. You can use the school filter to pick a specific school. You can limit access if you want to limit access to your school level administrators until everything is in there and data set up. And from the main page, I'm going to go to the bottom right, that settings section. There are 3 important things to address. Thing number 1, starting at the bottom, is limiting access. We recommend limiting access for school level accountability administrators, so principals, We recommend limiting access until at the district level you're comfortable with the recalculations and the data files. And so you check that little box, and it makes it so that people with school level access cannot see Axiom, only people with district level access. Moving up to view data files and recalculate all data. These two are the most important these two are the most important for making sure you have the correct data imported. And every time you do something new, you click that recalculate. We've actually added this year some cool new features or some new checks for when you are processing or reprocessing your data. We're doing error checks that we were not doing before. Sometimes before it would fail, and then you would have to call support to figure out why it failed. We've got some errors reports in there now that will help with that. But also on the data file section, you're going to be able to, with way more precision than ever before, go to that view data file section and see exactly what is in each data file and what might be missing. So for example, if you have a 3 through 8 file that does not have performance levels like you have now, it will tell you this 3 through 8 file does not have performance level data, which means that your Axiom calculations are incorrect. So when the file comes out with performance level data, you import that, it'll update. You will also be able to re-import your data files from the view data file section. So you don't have to go back into main aware configure upload tests. You can do it straight from Axiom. When you go to view data files, you can actually click a little re-import button if you need to re-import any of your data files, and it tells you exactly what's in there: SIRS, SAT, ACT, star 3 through 8, TELPAS, whatever the file type is. It tells you a lot of the details about it. It tells you the number of records. It's really, really informative. So the view data file section, which I'm not showing you a screenshot of because it would only be real district's data files to show you there. The view data file section is going to be super, super informative for do you have the right information loaded into Axiom? The last section, the configure schools, I'm actually going to show you a screenshot of. I've of course blocked some schools out here so you can't see what schools I'm showing, what district I'm demoing here. We've actually added a few columns of information here related to 2023 accountability, and I want to highlight that. So of course, in addition to the school name and the CDC code, we have the school type, and you can set that and change it. This is actually a middle school, that sort of thing. The first and second group are going to be related to that domain 3 changes. So domain 3 this year, and I'll show you some screenshots in a minute. Domain 3 this year focuses on, for each school, the 2 lowest performing groups from the prior year. So you can go in here and you can set those 2 groups to tell Axiom which groups to focus on. We also have the economically disadvantaged percentage for domain 2B. We have your enrollment counts for the schools. And we have a section to enter additional data that I'm going to show you in a minute. Now, here's some cool thing that we were able to do. We were able to source from TEA, publicly available information, and preload all of this information for you. So we're going to advise you to go in and make sure that we preloaded accurate information, because we were only able to load it in straight off of what was publicly available. And if there's something in there that maybe was inaccurate, you're going to want to check for that. But all of this information should be preloaded for you. Especially please focus on your first and second groups and make sure that we have identified the correct first and second groups. Order doesn't matter. You can swap them out either order, but the 2 lowest performing groups that you're going to have in your domain 3, you're going to want to make sure are accurate for each school here. For additional data, we of course have the section where you can enter in the components related to domain 1 and domain 3. We were not able to preload this, so you're going to need to get your CCMR and graduation information from Teal, I believe, and get that entered in here. So once again, to get to that, you click on configure schools. You have all this information. For the high schools and schools that have graduation rates, you're going to hit enter additional data and enter that here. Every time you enter in new data, you come right back to this screen. You say recalculate all data. So you can go in and enter for all the schools, make sure everything is updated. But when you're done doing that, you click recalculate, and it recalculates for everything. Okay. Moving on, also on the main page, there's a section for graphs and reports. Now, this section looks a little bit different whether you're looking at it as a school level Axiom administrator or a district level. I have here the screenshot of district level. The school level has slightly fewer options. New addition to this is the student list table. I'm going to show you a screenshot of that a little bit later in this presentation, but the student list table is that one that you previously used to only be able to get to through an Axiom data table. You would click on a number and it would take you to the students. You can still do that, the thing I just described, but now you can also jump straight to the student list table from the main page. This is, again, in my opinion, the best feature in Axiom because it gets you to the students behind these numbers. And the cool thing about the student list table is that data table behind the scenes just stays populated. When you click recalculate Axiom data, it's calculating all of this stuff into a data table behind the scenes. And so you don't have to generate this list from scratch like you would in a quick view. So this is far faster and more performant than anything you can do in a quick view. So I'll be showing you that in a minute. The domain summary report, which I'll also show you a screenshot, is a pretty cool way to just generate a report of all your schools all in one. Like, just, I don't need pretty graphs. I just need to see what are the domain projections. That's a really cool way to get that. The custom star summary report, which I will not be showing a screenshot of, is just a cool, fast way that you can generate some data tables related to star performance. It's got some little widgets at the top that can help you generate those for reporting purposes. And then the all accountability reports button, I say, if you don't need trees, if you don't like trees, go ahead and do this one because it prints out every single page for every single school, for every single domain, all in one PDF. So you click that button, you go fix yourself some coffee, go talk to somebody else, come back a little bit later and you'll have a little PDF waiting for you in your downloads folder. Everything that comes in the all accountabilities report is available to just click through an Axiom, but sometimes you just need that paper report, right? Okay, so let's show the student list table. This is an image of the header of the student list table. What's missing on the bottom is students, because of course I'm not going to show you student data, but the students would populate underneath this table based off of the filters that are set. We've updated the look of this for this year, so it's a lot cleaner looking, and it looks nicer in the new Aware navigation. And also because there's so many filters, you have the ability up in the top right to click that filters button to hide and expand these filters. You don't need to see the filters all the time. As you select the different filters across the top where it says student list district here, you'll also see what filters are in place so that you can know what's being filtered. I want to right now take a little bit of time to go over a few examples of how I would use this in my district. For starters, we have a filter for high focus. This is the new domain 3 designation that combines several different demographic groups into one. So for example, if a student is a foster child or is economically disadvantaged or some combination of multiple different factors, they can be a high focus student. So because this is not an actual field in STAR data, there's no high focus demographic equals yes. It's actually determined by multiple different demographic statuses. Axiom determines this, and you can use Axiom to find who all the high focus students are. You don't have to do that determination yourself. You can say high focus, you can change it from not set to yes, and it will generate a table of all the high focus students. You can then up in the top right hand corner say create monitor group, and now you're aware has a district level monitor group called high focus, and every single assessment that you analyze data for the entire school year can use high focus as one of the summary levels. You can just edit that view, drop high focus in there, and you can see how the high focus students are doing on any assessment, big and small. So I would use high focus to maybe build a monitor group to help people summarize data for that student group. Another thing I want to point out, previous performance level indicator. Okay, so remember this year for domain 2A, and I'll show you some screenshots of this in a minute. For domain 2A, they divide the performance bands into low did not meet, high did not meet, low approaches, high approaches, meets, and master's grade level. So in order to determine 2A, you have to have a current year, or 2023 STAR results for reading and math, and you have to have a prior year. Well, the EOC files did not include prior year. So we had to actually find that information ourselves. And we were pretty good about it because, especially if you've had Aware for several years, you probably have student data in Aware. So we were able to build out a data table, search for previous year performance level indicator, calculate it for the students, and then populate that for domain 2A for all the students who are in the subset. Here's the deal. If you had students move into your district who you do not have records for from 2022, then we were not able to include those students in your domain 2A, even though TEA will. So this can be mitigated if you have SIRS data files where you have the new student come in, you get the data, you load it in. If you have imported 2022 data in for students who tested in 2023, then you should be good because we are searching for those records that were imported through SIRS files. However, we still might have missed some because maybe they're not in your district. So the way you can determine if we have previous year performance level indicator data for domain 2A for your students, you would go to this filter, you would change it from not set to blank. I'm looking for students who blank, we do not have their 2022 data. And that will tell you who we didn't have data for. And then you can go and maybe request that import into your Aware so that you have their historical records. So we actually tested this in a demo environment with some districts who have lots and lots of the data imported, and we were able to find a lot of students through that. So moving on to the last thing you could potentially use this for, I have circled the current year, so the 2023 approaches, meets, and masters, which you can say equals yes or equals no, and also performance level indicator, which you can say equals something like low did not meet or high did not meet, so forth. You can use this to create and manage monitor groups for student monitoring in the 23-24 school year. So, for example, maybe you have students that you need to be monitoring for accelerated learning for House Bill, is it 1416, 4545, 1416? All the numbers are new, right? You have to monitor students. So you can set these filters to find who those students are. You can set the subject filters to say, look, I'm just looking for math. I want to make a math group to monitor. I want to make a language arts reading group to monitor. You can set these filters to match, say create monitor group. That's now a district monitor group that you can monitor for every single assessment you do. But there's more. Why not also look for enrichment students? You could set this to students who maybe met grade level, but master's grade level equals no. So students who met grade level but who didn't master grade level, you might want to monitor in your local assessments for enrichment opportunities. So the short version of that is these filters can be used to figure out who you want to monitor and for what purpose, send them over to a monitor group, and then all of your people in your district are able to use that monitor group for anything throughout the 23-24 school year. So that's why I think I've spent a lot of time on this one slide because I think that this is the tool in Axiom that perhaps provides you the most opportunity to leverage 23 accountability results into actions in 23-24. All right. Here's a picture of the domain summary report. I've blocked out the campuses, and you can see it just quickly shows for each row, each campus. Here's the different domain ratings. You can generate this, send it to a PDF or to a Excel file, and then you have this for your reporting purposes. So this is kind of a fast way to get everything all in one shot, especially for some of the larger districts that have lots and lots of campuses. This might be a fast way to get a report generated and take it to like an executive meeting. All right, let's look at some screenshots. Here is the overall score screenshot. Not much here that's new, that's other than the formatting, but you can see that this is where you can go to see how the domain scores result to the projected overall rating. We do have a note here that it's based on available data. I'm going to highlight that as often as possible. We are only able to determine these results based on data that you have available in your Aware. Let's move on to the student achievement, domain 1. This is formatted to sort of look a little nicer again in the new navigation. This includes this year, of course, SAT and ACT data. So it's important that you have your SAT and ACT data imported. I'm put a little asterisk on that last statement. We're currently updating our ACT importer, which I believe is broken right now. We'll have that fixed for you when Axiom's out so that you can upload ACT files as well. So the SAT and ACT data, all of your STAR data, your TELPAS data, and any SIRS files from previous years so that you have the historical records of students for determining domain 2A. Domain 1, here it is, top part, and then you can scroll down and it takes you down into your maybe CCMR components if you're a high school, for example, and then a data table breaking it down by subject. So this is the top part, this is the bottom part, but it's all in one screen. Here is domain 2, top part of the page. We actually have domains 2A and B in the same space. Once again, we have a note here. This is the note talking about what I was mentioning earlier, making sure that you have SIRS files loaded in to capture prior year data for students who tested out of district in 2022. We've got the overall domain 2A and B, and when you scroll down, you get the actual domain 2A comparing prior year to current year on the performance level indicators. Red is 0 points, yellow is half a point, green is 1 point, and then the accelerated learning points at the bottom. Remember, the accelerated learning points are related to domain 2A calculations. I'm not talking about like accelerated learning plans from like a House bill, which is same language, different purpose, right? By the way, just you may have noticed on my screenshots as I go through really quickly that it shows like 21, 22. That's because to test this, and this is actually kind of cool, we actually tested against prior year accountability using current year results because some of that information was available to us on TEA's website. So all of this, when it releases, will bump over to the correct current years. Here's domain 3. Domain 3, again, we were able to load in information for your 2 lowest performing groups. We were able to calculate your high focus groups based on the demographic data included in the STAR files. But please make sure that you check your school settings for accuracy. High focus group student data is not available for comparison for previous year. And so that's a thing to take into consideration. But all of your schools should have fairly good looking data tables for domain 3. Here, just scroll down, taking you through all the different data points. All right, so it's a lot of information, and some of it, actually all of it, assumes that you know something about accountability as I'm talking through this. So I want to talk a little bit about how to get support for Axiom. For starters, if you have questions about getting started in Axiom or how to input data or how to use Axiom or what any of the features do, you start with Eduphoria support. We've got online help articles for you. We've got our support lines and our emails available for any technical troubleshooting. Our FAQ document is ongoing. It's a living document. So as you guys ask questions, we actually meet fairly regularly during the kind of hot season for start of school where people are calling and asking questions. So we'll be processing the types of questions that are getting asked frequently. If you have a question, chances are somebody else has a question as well. So please feel free to ask it because it may help us inform, it may help inform us what we should put into the Axiom FAQ. So please check the FAQ document, maybe even regularly if you come up with a question later, because we might have added the answer to the question that you think of later through interacting with some other folks. Our Eduphoria customer success team is of course super awesome and super knowledgeable about how to use the software. However, they are not Texas accountability experts. I, at this point, don't feel like I am either. So I wanted to make sure that if you are calling to talk about accountability, the main thing that they're going to be able to do beyond troubleshooting, checking your files and recalculating and things like that, is they'll be able to help document why you might suspect you have calculation concerns. And this is key The more information you can provide about why you might be concerned about what you're seeing in Axiom, the better, because what we do is we actually have a whole team of people available for escalating those concerns and looking into them so that we can see if maybe we missed something in our methodologies, or if there's something going that's off with the calculations that are happening behind the scenes. So please, if you have any concerns, let us know, help us document, and that's how we improve the calculations. For accountability questions, there's a number of sources, of course, TEA, right? And I shared with you accountability materials and so forth. Region 10, as an Axiom customer, Region 10, our Axiom partner, is available for support on accountability. Your local service centers, of course, also has people to talk about accountability. And if you're an Accountability Connect member with John Fessenden, you can't do any better than that. It's like talking to TEA right there. He has all the information. So if you're an Accountability Connect member, of course, go straight to John Fessenden. All right, I'm going to hand it over to Penny or Amber to talk about webinars.
Yeah, thanks, Ed. As you guys that have been with us for a while know, we at Region 10, in partnership with Eduphoria, kind of develop and support Axiom. So we take over once we've kind of launched the tool and get all of that, and provide a couple of learning opportunities throughout the year that really dig into some of those instructional improvement practices and how Axiom can support that. So we've got a couple of events coming up in October and January. Really, how to take that. The purpose of this tool is to be an accountability analytics tool to help you plan for improvement and support your processes of creating those monitor lists, targeting those kids for improvement. What is the next step once you get your accountability ratings and data, so that coming up on the next testing season in the spring, you're ready for success. So we've got those couple of dates. We would love for you guys to join us on those. Those webinars will also be recorded and sent out to our Axiom contact list as well. So if you can't attend live, go ahead and register. That way we can make sure that you get the recorded information.
All right, and with that, if you have any other questions also related to anything else in the software, please don't hesitate to reach out to us, call us, or you can contact training@eduphoria.net. We can answer any and everything related to Eduphoria concerns. And thank you so much for joining.